So when you look at pricing, and I'll send you a matrix that we have.
Okay.
And what the matrix says is, hey, this is my margins up here.
Yeah.
And this is how much I want to raise it. I'm at 30%. I want to raise it 5%.
Yeah.
In the middle, it tells you what percent of my customers could I lose and still be better off. Oh, really?
And then
it becomes
you're mitigating
easy
fear,
math.
because fear makes people predictably irrational, right? And so it's like, no. Like, let's really stress test this. Oh, this is fun.
And that's what we did with that one deal. It's like, if we raise it 10%, what percent of your customers do you think you'll lose? He says, 5%. It's like, do it.
Let's do it.
You're better off. But here's the other deal.
Better off.
What 5% do you think are going to leave over that price increase?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to our live session on revenue strategy. We're talking about revenue lies, business truths, and hidden dangers in your growth. I'm Dacia Coffey, the CEO of the Marketing Blender, and I'm so excited to finally share this with my dear friend and colleague, Burt Copeland, the most amazing Chief Financial Officer on the planet. So just to make sure you didn't have to say that for yourself.
Okay, good, Ann. I appreciate it.
Burt, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, and I'm Burt Copeland. I'm the CEO and founder of New Life CFO Services, and delighted to be here because y'all have to rein us in because we get along so well and play off each other. This could go sideways. So hopefully you'll find that entertaining, but if not, just reel us back in. And I'm very excited about this topic because most people think that a CMO and a CFO are just battle enemies. Exactly.
Yeah, and we're not.
No. Because
we want the same thing, you guys. It's just that I feel like people create these cultures of criticism or blame. And so instead of a marketer, especially, I'm going to own this, stepping back and going, well, what do you mean by that? And how do we solve this together? I feel like a lot of times marketing gets really defensive because we're used to being blamed versus, wow, the CFO
That's our role is to get blamed or to blame.
Well, see, both. So I love this. And, we're talking about revenue strategy. And honestly, I wonder, and I would love to hear this from you guys. Have you heard the term revenue strategy? So hit us up in the comments because we do have the amazing Samaria Boyd back there. And now apparently we're getting some loud background noise. So hopefully that's going to end because I think it's somebody out in the hallway. So
yeah, it's definitely in the hallway.
I know if one of you guys can go ask them to stop it, that would be amazing. You got to love going live.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently somebody decided to do construction right behind us right now in our studio. But anyways.
Always fun.
I know, exactly. So I digress. So in the comments, if you guys have heard of revenue strategy, just type yes, or if you haven't, type no or your questions. But all right, revenue strategy, what do you mean by that? Like from a CFO perspective?
It's too often people just think it's like the Billy Idol approach to revenue. With a rebel yell, they cry more and more and more.
Yes,
it's like it's not supposed to work that way. So you need to think through your revenue. Like, what revenue do you really want? It's okay if you want more and get more if you have the right revenue.
Yeah.
But, there's a couple of things that we'll get into as far as why is it so hard? And if it's really hard to grow your business and new revenue, then you need to step back and go, what is that telling me about my product, my approach, or my market? Do my customers really not want what I have?
Yeah.
And so stepping back and dissecting the strategy of your revenue, what markets you're in, what markets you want to be in, and maybe even what markets you don't even know you should be in.
Yes. And I think from a revenue strategy standpoint, it was interesting. I kind of had to learn this then the hard way, right? Because number one, there's a lot of emotion around growth. Like how big are you? How fast is it going? What's wrong with me? Right. And
What's wrong with
I'm serious, but so many entrepreneurs are like, why isn't this working? We've got something amazing. Why is it not going? And then I had points in my career where I'm like, whoa. The marketing is working and they're qualified leads. And I can see that you're closing deals. Yeah. Why is it not working? Okay. Let's talk about quality of revenue.
Yeah.
Who are you bringing in? Are you keeping customers? And so it was kind of by hook and by crook where I learned to ask smarter, deeper questions because when every indication should be up and it's flat, Holy cow. And I think, for our audience, that's one thing. If your revenue is not increasing and you know you deserve it, you need to start asking some better questions and really dissecting, to your point, of what's happening.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we're going to touch on as far as the strategy or quality of revenue is really getting into your revenue mix is the number one indicator that's driving the value of your company, not the size of your company, but the underlying value from a buyer's perspective. So if you want more when you exit, you better be scrutinizing your revenue closely.
Yeah. And I'm glad you bring this up this early, because I think a lot of people think, well, I'm not exiting, or I'm not going to sell my business anytime soon, or I don't know, that's 10 years from now. But what ends up happening is 10 years comes and goes, and you go, you know what? I'm out. It's time to retire. It's time to pass it off. And there's nothing to sell, and they're shocked.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, you have a statistic I heard you say at a speaking engagement. What percentage of companies are actually able to sell?
Only 17% actually get to a transaction. So if I understand and go, I think this year's the year I'm going to sell, just know that you're one of 17. You're one of the 17%, or it's not getting done.
Yeah.
And what's even more interesting is out of that 17%, which always sounds like a really small deal, only a fraction of that sells at a premium, right? Because it's that whole thing about, well, this is the year I'm going to sell. Let's go to market. It's like, whoa, you have not critically reviewed your business from the buyer's perspective. And the number one most critical factor is the revenue, the qualitative nature of your revenue.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you guys, let's pretend you really aren't going to sell. Maybe you've got family members and you're going to pass it on. The thing you should the reason you should care about valuation is this is literally about building a company of excellence, because the criteria that it takes to build valuation is exactly what you should care about, because that is how you accelerate. It's how you have more impact in the world. It's how it works. It's how you get joy and margin out of your company by following these principles.
It's the old adage about what's the difference between a really great company that's highly valuable and ready to sell and a great company that's just a great company?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
It's the exact same thing.
Exactly.
So I don't care if you want to say, I'm going to sell my company, or I just don't want to work as hard and make a boatload more.
Yes.
It's the exact same process.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're starting out with the revenue, because let's face it, revenue is the biggest ego number on the financials.
Biggest ego number. I have gotten tripped up in that myself, because who doesn't want to get bigger? But I would actually prefer to get wealthier, not just bigger. And I would prefer to prosper my team and create resilience, not just get bigger at the risk of everyone.
And therein lies the biggest trap, right? Because when people think, I'm going to Billy Idol this thing, I want more.
Yeah.
Then they're thinking more of the same.
Yeah.
And frequently that's the wrong answer.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Because now on the 19th hole at the golf course, I get to brag about more of the same.
Yeah.
Versus I have more valuable revenue, and it might be the exact same number to start with.
Yep. More of the same. What got you here will not get you there. Not ever. Now, I want to chase a tiny little squirrel before we really dive into it.
Do I need to get my shotgun out for this?
Actually, I think you'll enjoy this one. Lead generation is not the same as revenue generation.
No. It's like, I don't know about you. Every week, I probably get 10 emails of somebody telling me, I'm going to get you 100 leads and blah. And I'm like, really? I don't want 100 leads.
I know. I can put up a sign for free puppies and get people leads. It doesn't mean it's going to grow your revenue. And we get this a lot. We get so many people saying, fix my lead gen problem, fix my lead gen problem. And I am immediately like, ooh, we have not validated that you have a lead generation problem. And typically, even if they do, it's not tip of the spear. And it comes back to revenue strategy, that there are things that you can fix now, hidden money right now. And it can come from both a marketing perspective and a finance perspective.
Yeah. And so flip that into, how do you fix my revenue gen problem?
Yes.
Not my lead gen problem.
Yes.
Because, if you get the wrong leads, your revenue is going to go down because you're wasting tremendous intellectual property on bad leads.
Exactly.
So like what I loved about when we engaged is, when we were talking about, it's like, I like and I respect branding, but I love revenue.
Exactly.
Right? I love revenue.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we want to be known for. We want to grow and scale companies and help people achieve their dreams, not drive leads for you. Like, yeah, sure, we'll do that because that's a part of building pipeline, but that's not the goal. Okay, so really quickly, I want to share with the audience, and I'm a little nervous because you're welcome to disagree with me. But when I
can't
think
wait.
about revenue strategy, it's as simple, and this is hilarious that I'm saying this one instead of you. It's as simple for me as do the math. Do the math. So yes, the marketer is going to do the math. So here's what I mean, you guys. So if you have a revenue number, let's say you want to grow an additional $5 million this year. Okay, great. What is the average deal size? What percentage needs to come from existing customers versus net new? On the existing customer side, how do you break that down? Do you have sizes of customers and some basic assumptions? Do you have different divisions? Do you have certain divisions or products or offerings that are more profitable? Maybe we focus on those more, right? Now and that actually is there needs to be a growth strategy, a marketing strategy around your customer retention, around your cross sells and your upsells, and even your future innovation. That is a marketing and a growth strategy. Now, on the other side, with the net new, there's math. Again, average deal size. Okay, well, how many deals do we need to roll up into the number, the net new number? Great. Let's pretend it's 15. Okay, now that's different. Only 15 net new projects at a certain size. Now this determines tactics because we don't need 1 million. Even though you need $5 million.
You don't need those emails I'm getting.
Exactly. We don't need 1 million. So then it's literally rolling it backwards and making some basic assumptions. Okay, what's your win-loss ratio?
Yep.
Oh, let's pretend it's 50. Okay, then you need double the number of proposals. All right, how many proposals do you need? Maybe it's 30. Okay, how many meetings? 1 out of every 4 is a proposal. Great. Now we know how many meetings we need. And now there's assumptions about where those meetings are going to come from. Digital marketing, speaking, trade shows, account-based marketing, so many different options, but not for your company.
And now you know why she is one of the marketing people that I love to talk to. You had me at math.
I know. But I want to know the assumptions because, and like I said, it's embarrassing, but we were set up for a failure. And I learned this through Hard Knocks about, okay, why are they flatlining in revenue?
Yeah.
And it is flatlining, guys. Like, even if your revenue is good, if you're not going up, you're growing or you're dying. So maybe that's a little harsh, but I'm just saying.
No, it's not harsh at all.
Like you should always be growing. You just need to be growing smart.
But I love what you filtered out, but I'm going to push in a little bit more on some stuff. So you're going through the basics of, hey, why is this 50%? Why is this 25% or whatever?
Yeah.
Or, it's 25%, so you need to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And my question would be why is it 25? Right?
Yeah.
Is 25 the right number?
Ooh.
Why is it not 35?
Ooh.
What are we doing? And this is where we get into the uniformity. I'm willing to invest in a boatload of marketing as long as we're discovering why.
Yeah.
Right? So when you peel that deal back, it's like, okay, we're happy with 25, but that means 75% are saying no.
Yes.
Holy crack-a-mole.
Yes. And, it's interesting because when you talk about tactics, that's immediately where we go.
Right.
So a lot of marketers are scared of the question, when are we going to see results?
Yep.
No, I love that question because now we're on the same page. So if we need to see results this quarter, it limits the tactics that we're focusing on. And we are focusing on win-loss ratios. We're killing everything that is not about sales qualified conversations.
Right.
Right. And really looking at what's happening because that's systemization. At the bottom of the funnel, marketing jargon alert, but at the bottom of the funnel where you're closing deals, if that is broken, there is no system when you start going bigger. You just get more brokenness and more waste.
And you want to do a cool ROI calculation? Do the calculation, the math, right? Between 25 and 35 or 25, even 30. It's stunning what that's going to do to your revenue growth. It is amazing what that extra 5 points of close ratio does. So you need to step back and says, do I have the right products, right? So we talked about that. Why are they saying no? Is because I'm offering crap?
Yeah.
Or am I not communicating the value of the crap I have?
Yeah, exactly. But I love that because we really are talking about business strategy.
Right.
And that's what you're really driving at is it's not just the spreadsheets and the numbers that people like to ignore every month, or it's not just the marketing that they wish they didn't have to do. We're literally talking about the health and the viability and the long-term success of your company and how to get more of it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know that whole pain cycle?
Exactly.
Because the only thing that I contest sometimes is people that are just sucked into the black hole of a CRM. Yeah. And I know that I have one. Okay, I know that. You've pushed it on me. But too often, it gets to be a data fill exercise instead of a sales extract exercise. Oh. And that's the wrong thing.
No, and a lot of brokenness, you can fix so much ROI simply by getting alignment around the definition of a lead and why are we using our CRM. Because CRMs are about data. That's it.
It's about good data.
Good data. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Not about data.
So segue on good data. You love to talk about good revenue versus bad revenue. And you were kind of teasing this out earlier when you were talking about more of the same. So good revenue versus bad revenue. And what did you mean by wanting different revenue?
So I'm going to give you a simple example, and then I'm going to go dive deep because that's what I do.
Okay.
So like when I had my previous company, we were in construction. We did commercial flooring.
Yeah.
And I started out the year by telling my sales folks, like, hey, look, here's the goal.
Yeah.
I want you to sell 1 yard of carpet for $1 million. And they look at me like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
And probably a few choice words.
Well, yeah. And thank God we're live, or else we'd have to just edit that stuff out. But they all looked at me like I'm crazy. And it's like, we can't do that. It's like, no? Okay, well, get as close as you can.
Yeah.
Because if I sell it for $1 million, there's a lot less work to execute on that, right? And the margins on that are fantastic. Because I would argue it's not the size of your revenue that matters. It's actually the size of your margins that matter.
Yeah.
And so when you step back into the qualitative nature of revenue, I'll use another example. A construction company, not mine per se, so yeah, but like a general contractor. They have a value that's the book value of their company is generally the value of the company. Mm-hmm. And why is that? It's because every year they have to recreate their entire revenue every year, right?
Yep.
They're not taking that client like you have and says, okay, you have clients and you have clients that you've had for 6, 7, 8 years.
Yes.
So you're building layers of revenue. You're not going, so she's able to build layers of revenue where the construction company, now they have to do a ton of heavy lifting just to create last year's, much less grow.
Yeah.
So they're investing so heavily in it, and it's also the reason why their margins are very low.
And I would add to that they don't think about business development as a system, as a repeatable system. We see, oh, I just got to find a better sales guy, or I just need to hire one more sales guy, or we just, and they'll just list off these tactical things like they're just magic wands.
Yeah.
And they're notorious for the wind at their back.
Well,
well, we're amazing. We're growing so much. No, the economy or your geography or your market is growing so much.
It's easy to brag if you're here in North Texas.
Exactly. And so that systemization thinking matched to quality revenue and really going about it consistently and sustainably.
Yep.
That's how we should be thinking about it.
Well, and then you start looking at your revenue streams again. Going back to this quality deal. And what does the lack of quality look like?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about general contractors, right? But things that are highly seasonal. So your Christmas store is the number one example of that. You're going to sell stuff for about 2.5 months and you're dead.
Yeah.
Absolutely dead. So you better make a boatload during that deal. Or a fireworks stand. They have 2 selling seasons a year.
Well, I will tell you an interesting story.
They can be wildly profitable, but there's a huge risk in between those seasons. And even if your season's just summer, I mow lawns, right? I have a landscaping business.
Yep.
It just means that the other half of the year is highly at risk. So
it's a huge one.
The risk factors that are associated with your revenue drives the qualitative nature.
And sometimes it's the industry that you sell to. So for instance, we've had clients, ironically, construction again, but they sell to school districts. Guess when their business is?
During the summer.
That's right. And so a number of years ago, we were able to help a group penetrate new industries so that
That's a perfect example.
And it was so fun, right? Ironically, more profitable business too, because different budgets, different ways of looking at a CapEx expenditure. And they sold just like that. 12 months later, great valuation. He's still on a boat.
Yep.
And that was like 6 years ago. I mean, it was so fun. And he was asking the right questions, though. He saw the seasonality and said, this is dangerous to me, and then got bought out way earlier than he thought he would.
Well, there's more seasonality in that business.
Yeah.
There's execution risk. Because in schools, if you're not done by August 15th, you are paying a fortune to complete that job, right?
Yeah,
So again,
exactly.
it's the risk profile of your revenues that really matters. And everybody goes, oh, I want ARR. Well, of course we do. But there's different ways of analyzing your risk.
Yeah.
So that's a great one.
Yep.
Here's another one of my favorites.
Yep.
What does your revenue look like to your customers? And they're like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah, I want to know, what do you mean? Okay, because I'm loving this because I'm like, all right, I'm stumped.
So let's say that I have a sailboat and I'm selling you trips out on Lake Louisville for you and your clients and everything else to have a big Yahooty weekend.
Yeah.
Another birdism. So
I want a Yahooty weekend. This is fun.
Yeah, we all do.
I think I'm due for that.
And that's your business.
Yeah.
So as soon as your customers stub their toe, you're a discretionary spend for them. You are done.
Yes.
Your business is cut overnight. So if you look at the services that you sell as though it's appearing on your customer's income statement and they have to make hard decisions, are you something that they have to have? Like the inputs that go into the machine? Or are you something that's like fun to have that gets killed instantly?
Do you know what I love about that question is not only is it mitigating risk, but it's also, it will drive the intrinsic value in good thinking about excellent delivery.
Oh, yeah.
How do we serve the market better? I mean, there's something so satisfying about being like, we are something that people believe is non-negotiable. Like, wow, who doesn't want to be that to their customers?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were mentioning risk. One of the other ones that we see all too frequently, the golden goose, the golden egg.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. So where you have too much concentration of your revenue around that one or two customers, and that can undo you almost overnight. And unfortunately, we've seen it, or we've thankfully been in a situation where we're trying to rescue, but those kind of pivots are scary because everything you built, everything you worked for, gone because of one person.
You are one decision maker away from being out of business.
That is exactly right.
For a brief while, I did banking. I know I don't look like a banker. Just go with your imagination here. But anyways, don't comment on that.
Comments, please. You can comment.
But we would do a stress test. Like if we'd go to a manufacturer and they had Walmart as a customer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We would do a stress test. And it's like, if that went away this month, could you survive?
Gosh, that's great information to know.
Right. So, and then we'd try, and if you couldn't, it's like, we're not banking you. You're too risky.
Yeah.
Now, the same thing holds true with your ability to sustain your own business, whether you're going to keep it for the rest of your life and hand it down to your family members, or you're going to sell it. It's like you're one decision maker away from your family and your business being in chaos.
Yeah.
So here's what I like people to imagine that are reluctant to make that change. We had this one client, this was a fun little game. They were a little bit ambivalent about making the changes that we were recommending.
Okay.
And they were bleeding cash.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got the patriarch and I says, hey, I want you to imagine one thing. And we actually had them do it. It's like, here's a podium. I want you to get up at that podium, stand behind it for just a second. And I said, so here's the crowd, your company meeting. Who's in the front row? My family members. Who's right behind them? Our executive team. Who's right behind them? People that have been here a while. It's like, great. Do you see their faces? Right. Good. I want you to say to them, hey, look, we got some bad news today. We lost client A, B, and C, or A, and that means that 50% of y'all are gone.
Yeah, and that's what happens.
Right.
And if you can't make that decision, you're all gone.
And if you're
people are
really
not ready.
uncomfortable with that conversation, I'd challenge the discomfort between that conversation and the conversation with your marketing company of we need to go get different, more valuable revenue.
Yes, absolutely. So another one to pivot a little bit that we see is when a disruption is happening and the client knows about it and is a little bit ostrich, head in the sand type of posturing, where they're like, well, it'll take a while for that to catch on, or we don't think that's going to catch on, or we're hearing a little rumbling over here. A lot of times we see it. So digital marketing, the competitors that people have in digital marketing are very different than the off screen. But especially in B2B, they're so focused on the competitors they know about and the comparisons there. And when we will list out the competitors online and they're like, well, we've never heard of those. Like, they must be startups. I'm like, oh, really? Do startups spend $40,000 a month on Google ad spend? No, they do not. No, they do not. So maybe we need to have this conversation, and they're not in pain. but it's that boiled
Yeah,
frog.
because the rationalization just, it makes my head blow up, number one.
Yeah.
And number two is you don't realize how risky the dance is you're dancing.
Yeah.
And I fell into this trap myself. So back when I had my construction company, it was 2008, early 2008. So they hadn't spit the bit entirely.
Yep.
But one of my big customers was Countrywide.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They turned off the spigot, right? We had millions that we did with Countrywide every year. It's like, oh, they stopped ordering. It's like, that's okay, without critically examining what is that really telling us?
Yeah.
And because we didn't take that leading hint, right, soon enough, embrace it, we rationalized it's only Countrywide without going, why is Countrywide spitting the bit?
Yeah.
And then a couple of months later, everything shut down and we were flat-footed.
Yep.
And we had the leading indicator.
Yep.
So don't ignore those things. And really more importantly, so it would have been hard for me to pivot that quickly.
Yep.
But if I'm stepping back into revenue strategy world and I start looking at the fact that, hey, look, I have certain customers that are in verticals I don't want to be in.
Yes.
Or that are riskier.
Yes.
Than I want to be in. So that's really important as well.
I agree. And I think it's so easy to fall into that trap. Like, I don't want to villainize this. I mean, I do want to villainize it. However, I want to
just sharpen that knife and get in it.
But I do want to, offer a little bit of empathy around this because people are so busy. But it's also why understanding strategy and understanding that your executive team, whether fractional or in-house, it is their job to be paying attention to what's happening 12, 24, 36, further. So yeah, they need to be busy on today's number and making sure that they're building resilience and strength into your company.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, that's probably one of the most valuable things about outside eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not trapped by the exact same thing you've been saying in your boardroom for the past 12 years. And I'm just not.
And I'm not going to be defensive about it because I wasn't a part of creating it.
Right, because, part of the benefits of us coming in from the outsiders, and for those that have dealt with me, y'all know that I can be a crusty old dog, right? So it is what it is. But it's like, if the king has no clothes on, the king needs to know.
Yeah.
We don't need to keep on telling the king, get up on that horse, you're fine. No, man, go exercise, do something. We need to change.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, this is hilarious. I am going to go back to math again.
What? That's my job.
I know, exactly. So another one is we talked about doing the math. How are you going to hit that number? Is it reasonable? Is it feasible? And then reverse engineer your marketing to it.
I love you. This is just so great.
Ditto. Projectability.
Yep.
Can you forecast? And rolling cash flows saved our business a number of years ago when we finally learned that and up-leveled that, and listening to a lot of your advice just changed the game for us. But projectability around revenue, because you can not very easily, I don't want to say that, but you can more agilely adjust and rethink strategy if you are watching what's happening. And you started kind of hinting at that, like, the stress testing, but from a CFO perspective, because you really help build these models, how do you see this? And what do you want to see?
All right. So I'm going to start out with where sales and marketing and finance usually have a head-butting deal, which you and I don't.
No, but.
All right. Mm-hmm. So I can't stand it when the sales manager walks in and she goes, hey, we're going to grow by 50%.
Yeah.
I go, really? How? Trust me, we have such a great thing. We're going by 50%.
We have an awesome team. I just hired a whole bunch of people.
But gosh, our pipeline, our backlog is the exact same it was 5 months ago. The hyperbole drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Right? But on your deal about the math, we call that a revenue build. So think about if I want to be, 25% more in a year, right? Then I need to start treating that like it's a liftoff. T minus 12 months.
Yes.
And then I start backing into what are the activities that have to take place to start feeding that deal.
Yes.
Because if I just, whistle through the graveyard, it ain't going to happen.
No.
It's just not going to happen. So we would approach it so with one of our clients, they were looking at growing massively. And they're like, oh, we need to project revenue. I go, no. We're not going to project revenue. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And I go, we're going to project what we're doing in estimating.
Yes, right? Because it's a leading
how many projects
indicator.
Do we have to get? And we switch the accountability from revenue accountability to estimating accountability. You have to estimate and close X number of jobs per month.
Oh, so good.
And as soon as that person, the lead of estimating, had the target on their back, wow, did things change.
Yeah.
Because now we told them, it's like, we're going to be burning through because our revenue is actually the antithesis of backlog.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what we did is we changed it into your backlog now has to be X by the end of the year. And we're going to burn through Y, which means you have responsibility. You have the building block responsibility of finding, executing, and winning X number of jobs per quarter.
I love it. Absolutely.
And that revenue build changed the company.
I absolutely love that. And, that is when a CFO and a CMO get on the same page. Because one of my favorite things you talk about is where you say your financials, your numbers are a reflection of your people and your processes. I mean, like literally things happening every single day. It's a mirror of what's
let me
happening.
clarify that a little bit more.
Yeah,
right.
please.
So you were so close.
I know I left out one. I couldn't remember the third one.
So people, their decisions and behaviors.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's in this building process that you can connect the dots and help them to change their behaviors.
Yeah.
Like just if you get, let's say you qualify your leads, not all leads are created equal, but you qualify leads and you go from that 25 to 30 or to 35.
Yep.
And you change those behaviors about how they're building their revenue, how they're building their pipeline, how they're building their backlog.
Yes.
Life-changing.
Completely.
For them and you.
Completely. That math that we were talking about earlier at the top of the episode, we create something that we refer to as an impact summary. And is a very short synopsis in numbers of what do your current customers represent? How's it broken down? What's your net new? Average deal size, right? And then you reverse engineering, what are we holding the tactics responsible for? Now, sometimes that is, sales numbers, proposals, lead flow. Sometimes it's specific where the lead's coming from, but it's very short and those become benchmarks. So we know immediately, are we on track? Are we performing beyond what we expected or under? And how do we adjust that?
You
and
just
it's
used one of my favorite words in the world.
Okay, which one?
Expected.
Yeah, right?
Too many people start tactics without going, if I'm successful, what should this look like? Right?
Yeah.
So again, start with the end in mind. I know that that's not my clause or anything else like that, but it's incredibly important that you says, if I change these behaviors, if I invest in this marketing deal, what do I think should be happening to my leads? And it may not happen. That's okay. But not knowing what your expectations are, then you get into rationalization.
Yeah.
But if you say that it's going to be 100 a month in 5 months, well, you have now a hurdle. Are we there yet?
Exactly.
And what I'll pivot on that one more deal and says, what does failure look like? So if success is 100 and failure is 20, let's benchmark both.
I wonder if this just made anybody else go like it did for me. Okay, so give me an example of that because that's very provocative. Could so much so that I'm like, I don't know if I'd like that conversation, but I do. I'm so curious.
This is the crusty old dog of me coming out, so get ready.
Oh no, did I just tee him up? Here comes the evil twin.
So here's what I used to do with my sales folks.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that you're one of my new prospective salespersons, and did I say that right? I don't know what I said.
Yeah.
Salespeople.
Yeah.
I said salespersons. That sounded really weird. Anyways, so we're interviewing and says, Dacia, this is great. Our business, fantastic. I would like you to tell me what you think your bookings would be in our company in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Right?
Yeah.
Plot that up.
Okay.
And it's like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You and I are going to be great dance partners. You're going to make a lot of money. I'm going to make money. This is going to be great.
Right.
But they say, can you also tell me on the same 3, 6, 9, 12, maybe 15 months, what the lowest number that is acceptable to you that would indicate this is not working out? And so you plot those two numbers and it's like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. You've already told me what failure looks like.
Yeah.
You've already told me what success looks like. So we're going to plot your path. And as long as you're going towards that upper number, we're going to be happy. If not, then we're going to look at your decisions and behaviors and see what has to change.
Yeah.
And then if you don't change those behaviors, then we're going to have a different conversation.
Right.
But when you define what success looks like in advance and what failure looks like in advance, what you are removing is rationalization in advance.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and maybe we argue about this, I think that also requires, or the best version of that would be coaching an open conversation where instead of a salesperson or prospective salesperson getting defensive, or if they ask really great questions where they're like, okay, what do you mean? Or can you give me an example? Or what do you expect? And here's what I'm thinking. I know that's really hard. Not all cultures have that, but it is something to aspire to, because if both people decide to agree to answer those questions together, now they're going to get on board around the behaviors, the activities, the plan, and those coaching moments can happen where that conversation's already open. So the person can say, okay, am I not seeing something? What are you seeing? And, they can invite coaching and support in, because none of us really want none of us want any of our team members to fail.
No.
We want them to be successful, but that healthy conversation, teaching them, engage in the harder conversations, seek support. Like, let's find out what success is and let me help you.
And here's a softball for you.
Okay.
So one of the critical conversations is, what tools do you need to get there?
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Because if we go back to the salesperson that's knocking on doors, and the salesperson is not properly equipped with the value proposition, with understanding what the proper pain is, or understanding what markets we're trying to penetrate, with the right tools to do that, they're not going to get there.
I completely agree.
You provide outstanding tools, which is great for executing, for not branding, right? Because
sometimes it matters, but not every time.
Right. Mm-hmm. Enabling the salesperson to says, you know what, you may not know everything about us, but we're going to give you the tools so that you can do this. We do the same thing with our CFOs.
Yes.
They're equipped with tools so they can do their job better and make a bigger impact.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to chase a tiny squirrel just to kind of answer that so people have an idea of tools, because it's not guessing. It's not exactly like it's not like, oh, maybe we need a sales pamphlet, or maybe we need to update our keynote presentation, or maybe we need digital marketing. No. It is literally tracking the buyer journey, understanding how you're serving the market from cradle to grave. And cradle is not the first time they pay you. Cradle is the first time they hear about you. And so then how do they like to purchase and progress through their problem solving, and then matching marketing to fill up the pipeline so that salesperson is so set up for success. Right. Because I don't want an expensive, talented salesperson dialing for dollars anymore. And it's 2024.
I know what I do with those phone calls.
Thank you. Exactly. Even if they're great, I get too many of them to answer. And I was a salesperson for a long time.
My number one response is, take me off your call list.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's just not, no, that's right. It's just not that world. So I'm like, no, I want marketing filling the pipeline. I want healthy agreement around what a lead is, right? I want healthy processes that drive activities that we're tracking, proper activities, so there's healthy accountability. And those salespeople are highest and best use, closing deals, and agreement around how is that going to happen. Yep. So I know there's a little bit of a distraction away from revenue strategy, but
I didn't pull my trigger and shoot it once.
I love it. Okay. So I'm going to go back to that forecastability. How do you build projections? Like, you talked about the conversation that you can have, but how does a CFO lead that, or what's the process, or even what do you see going wrong, or if people are trying, what are they doing wrong?
So let's go back to your deal about new customers versus old customers.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to start out with our existing customers.
Yeah.
Because I already have a very high know, like, and trust relationship with them. So my probability of fast revenue is going to come from there. Yep. So I will plot those out. And you're kind of grading, what is my relationship?
Yeah, totally.
Right? How are we serving that relationship?
Love that. Agreed.
Right? And then that allows me to say, this revenue is very predictable, or this revenue is at risk.
Yeah.
Right? And so I will take those out. And then I will look at, for us, what we do for our revenue build is we actually do it based upon, I want to hire X CFOs.
Yeah.
Because my CFOs become a leading driver of our revenue.
Right.
Not necessarily our leads.
Yep.
So if I have to stop my lead machine if I don't have a place to put them.
Yep.
But as we continue down this revenue build, then we'll look at the timeline about, hey, look, we're doing certain things with y'all. That leads to X number of leads that we get. And then we know that it takes from first awareness to final close is probably around 2 months.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So now I know it's 2 months, and I can look at my win percentages depending on size and complexity of the client, right?
Yeah.
The smaller ones, I have a smaller opportunity to win because we start looking like overhead to them.
Yeah.
These other ones, I can get to a great value proposition. My win percentage goes up. And then I'll move those forward and says, okay, if it takes me, 2 months to close, 3 months to close, then I kind of back into my liftoff.
Yes.
T minus X. What do I have to be doing? And if I have enough leads, right? This is how many leads I need to have. This is the high quality of the leads. I can convert so many. And I literally look at those building blocks and everything else.
Yeah.
And I'm specifically looking for clients. I don't want to do a project.
Yeah.
Projects make me queasy.
Yeah.
If it's a project, it needs to be a project that leads to an ongoing relationship. Right?
Right.
So part of our revenue build, we have 3 diagnostic services, and that's the right thing.
Yeah.
But the diagnostic services are also a leading indicator about how many of those that I do, because if I do 4 of them, 3 of them are going to become long-term clients.
Exactly.
So those are the kind of metrics that I look at.
Yeah.
But somebody just telling me that I can grow by 50% with a bunch of hyperbole and breast-beating stuff, it's like, no, come on.
I love that so much. And you're getting so specific that you can build strategies based on specific customers. Like, oh, how can we fortify this? How can we make sure that that projection happens? For me, I immediately start thinking, ooh, can we improve one of those metrics? Like, would we be able to get more squeeze out of that lemon in this area? It just maybe opens up better questions around what's possible and how can we accelerate if that's the goal.
Yeah. And if we link that back into revenue strategy. Sometimes that means that we're going to go out our primary swim lane to one swim lane over.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that's a totally different exercise and a totally different timeline.
Yes.
But sometimes if you've already kind of maximized this lane, your only growth is going to come from doing that. Otherwise, you're just beating your head up against a market that's already limited.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're talking about going into a different swim lane. It's also a totally different marketing strategy. Most people think, oh, our messaging is just what we say to everyone. No. Your revenue, your most profitable revenue will come from only 3 to 4 personality types in your company. I don't have the statistics. I should have brought them, but maybe what percentage of revenue is actually profitable for most clients, or what do you see? What would be your educated guess?
I'm going to reverse that. I'll say there's 20% of your revenue that I know is not profitable.
Yeah. Right?
Right.
Like, horrifying.
Right.
I mean, what if you just fix that? Just stop selling to those profit stealers and joy killers.
Well, and it's like that book, 10X Easier Than 2X.
Yes.
One of the critical things is you got to stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just continue along this, euphoric path of mediocrity thinking that you're going to become great.
That's right.
So you have to stop doing those things. And then you can free up the space to do things differently.
Yep, exactly. Well, and, typically what I see is in the early stages of business, hustle accomplishes a lot, and your existing network gets you to a certain level. Then you add 1 or 2 team members, and their hustle and excitement and existing network gets you to the next level, because now there's at least a little leverage around you. And then maybe if you're lucky, you added a marketing tactic that worked or something, or you've got, this is the common one, wind at your back. So then just by sheer luck, you hit, that third turn of revenue.
I'm not opposed to it at the back, but it's not
I'm not either. But, if you're trying to build resilience, you need to know where that's coming from. And then if they're lucky, it just stays there and they don't know why. And it's like, and exactly what you're saying, what got you here will not get you there. And it's a combination of the right questions.
So let's go back to that 20% for a second.
Okay.
Right? So what's the problem with the 20%? Well, number one, we like the 20% because it makes that country club number that we have up there.
Pinkies up, we're bigger.
Yeah. We're bigger. But if you really looked at that 20% and you scraped it off, not only are you probably going to be more profitable, your people are going to be a hell of a lot happier.
Yeah.
And you're going to free up the critical resources of time and brain power to make the shift over somewhere else.
Yeah.
All the monies and effort that you're spending on that 20%, it's a waste. So here's the easy way to find your 20%.
Okay.
Right? If you took your customer list, right?
Yeah.
I want you to grade them between the biggest pain in the ass.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sorry,
I know, it's true.
I will tell you that the people that are constantly harassing you about your execution, your punch, or you got to finish this, and I'm not going to pay you until all that other stuff, they're killing you.
Agreed. Totally.
And your people will be so happy when you fire them. And here's the really good news about firing those people.
Yeah.
They're now with your competitors.
Oh my God. That's so, I love that. Like, I did not see that one coming. Do you know,
just celebrate the joy of that jackwagon's over there with your competitors mucking up their office.
We don't get to do this frequently, but it does come up a couple times a year. We will build negative buyer personas. And we will literally create messaging strategies on landing pages, in digital marketing, and in sales presentations to scare the hell out of those profit stealers.
Ooh.
And it works because where you take a strong line, your best clients are like, that's right, I love that. And like, they won't be scared to be held accountable or share information or show up on meetings or have some sort of like agreement on their side that they're going to let you do your best work. Your crappiest clients, they will not do that.
I love that.
It will scare them. Yeah, it's so fun. It doesn't always come up, but it's a great point about revenue strategy.
No, man.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not about spending more money on marketing or doing something like totally wild and new. Sometimes innovation comes from just being smarter about what's happening in your numbers and then reversing the marketing strategy around that. And that one's worked really good for a number of engineering firms. They have a tendency to just hang out and wait for the next client. It drives me crazy. Like, they have to be unseated. Well, go unseat them, damn it. But anyways, first, let's just like find your margin, and start working on your marketing so that you're prepared when they're unseated. So,
well, especially in this economy. So there's an article that came out today in Texas where Texas has gained more new companies, double the amount as the next likely state for 12 years in a row.
Wow.
And for the last 4 years, the number of new businesses coming into Texas has grown. Now, I share that with you because growth around here is tremendous.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're not growing, it's you.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
You don't need to ask the date question. Is it me or is it you? No, it's you.
It's you. Agreed. Mm-hmm.
So with that, if growth should be coming more easily, like the demand is that high, that's where you need to step back and do a risk assessment of your existing revenue, right? What do we really want to keep here? What do we really want to say no to? Because saying no is more powerful than saying yes.
So scary, right? But yes.
So we had another client that we said, okay, they were growing by leaps and bounds, but their profits were still miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable. And so what we did is like, okay, on this y-axis, we're going to grade out the risks of your revenue. How well does it fit with your core capabilities? How well does it fit with your long-term strategy? How well does it fit with whatever?
Yeah.
Right? And for them, how well does this contract risk that you're getting into get into so all those other things. And then on the bottom, the x-axis is how well does this align with your ability to maximize profitability? Right?
Yes.
And we had them grade out the types of business, the verticals that they wanted to get into, and then the types of contracts they wanted to get into, and then the types of customers that they wanted to get into.
Exactly.
And you carve out this box in the lower, left-hand corner and says, that's my no box.
Oh, I love it.
And then the other two boxes are, these are my maybe boxes. What do I need to do some cosmetic surgery on these things to move them into the yes box? Very powerful.
I love that so much because, it actually aligns with why we insist on building buyer personas. And it should be based on this type of rationale around revenue strategy. Because I'll say to people, you can sell to anybody you want to. I don't think you should sell to everyone, but you're technically allowed to if you really are like, I just need it in the door. But you cannot market to everyone. You do not have the money, you do not have the resources, you do not have the time, you do not have the team to handle marketing to everyone. And every single target market that you go after, human being that you go after, requires its own marketing plan and messaging strategy. You got to be really careful about your resources. And so saying no, we will not water down our marketing effectiveness based on these people that are not our highest and best margin offerings, successful client engagements, long-term engagements. No, we will not waste money on them. If you want to sell a project, do it, but we're not going to market to the people that only need you for a one-off project.
Well, and some people get into this deal about, it's a self-limiting belief about, I can't fund marketing. And I'm like, oh yeah, you can.
I'm so.
Oh yeah, you can.
Thank you so much for bringing
this
up.
And not just, I'm not here just to throw you another softball, but here's what I think about. It's like, you're not thinking about how you fund things properly. So let's go back to my little matrix thing that I just described with my hands.
Yeah.
Anyways. But if you examine that deal, then you're going to look at some of your things and they're in the maybe boxes, price them more heavily.
Yeah.
So price them to your pain, right? And if you have incredible demand,
Amen.
increase your prices by 5 or 10% because that falls 100% to the bottom line.
It'd be so good that you can
100%.
that you can demand those new prices.
Right.
Love
Don't
it.
live in fear of your own prices.
Yes.
Now, that's not a strategic deal. I know somebody's out there
This
wanting to
makes
slap
my
me around
heart
for
so happy.
It's not strategic.
Exactly.
And it's not. But it is if you consider it to be, these are resources that we're creating to fund what's next.
Yeah.
That's
right.
powerful.
That's
and then
right.
you come back and says, hey, Dacia, great news is I've raised my prices. We got 5% drop into the bottom line. I'm willing to put 1% of that with you.
That's right. Well, and the other one about funding marketing.
1% more with you.
There you go. The other thing about funding marketing is you're already spending on marketing. The comment we get a lot from business companies is, well, we don't do any marketing. Oh, yeah, you do. It's just hidden in your P&L.
Oh, yeah.
And so you helped me build a tool that we now use with our clients where gross margin, so that we understand your real business model, so we understand what percentage of revenue or percentage of gross margin is a healthy marketing budget, appropriate, not under, not over, so that we know, because if you're in pain, we have to be practical. We can't just throw out that nonsense 10% number that all of the studies, I hate that number, keep populating. But when we have a checklist, and it's hard, they hate going through this, but it's how much did you spend on travel to shows? How much did you spend on client entertainment? How much did you spend on trade shows? How much did you spend on printing? How much did you spend on that graphic design, that banner, that this, that? There is thousands upon thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars for companies that have never done marketing. And I do insist on pulling out salaries, marketing salaries, freelancer, outsourcing, and sales salaries. Because your ROI...
Now you and I are on a different page. And I'll tell you why in just a second.
Because for me, I just want to know currently what your overall spend on growth.
Yep.
It's not that I'm trying to steal from the sales salaries. It's you should be looking at it as a total business development ecosystem. And what are you getting for it currently? Yep. And so, marketing versus sales, there's not supposed to be one, but I do want to know so that we know what role is marketing playing. We work with a client who spent a ton ramping up their salespeople, and then they weren't producing. And so now they're like, oh, we have no pipeline. What do we do? And so we fixed that, but it's very stressful. I mean, there's negative ROI happening.
Oh, it's huge
there.
negative. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the dollar you see on your income statement.
Yeah.
So here's my pushback on the salespeople.
Okay.
So a lot of times I'll run into business owners and like, Charlie's underperforming. It doesn't matter because Charlie's commission is like, no, it matters a lot.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why is that? I'm just paying Charlie for what he's bringing in. It's like, Charlie is jacking up your brand in the marketplace. They're not saying no to Charlie. They are saying no to you and your products because they are so woefully misrepresented.
Yes. Thank you.
So go throw Charlie under the bus, celebrate when it gets run over, and go get somebody and equip them to tell the story right, because Charlie is jacking up your branding.
Well, completely agree. And, if a company, let's just throw out a number, is spending $500,000 on base comp or base comp plus commission, and they're still flatlining, move that money. Like, doggone it, put it to work for you.
Yeah, you're spending that money because you can, not because it's producing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's very different.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm a little scared to ask you this question.
This is going to be good.
Being a part of, CEO peer groups for a long time and, having business friendships and just trying to grow our own firm. You hear the phrase frequently, which proves to be true, growth eats cash. Now, how do you manage protecting margin and committing to healthy, appropriate growth?
That's a really great question. And in the next 3 hours, I'm going to answer that. No.
Maybe that's Burt's next live.
Everybody just started shutting off. I'm out.
Good Lord.
So growth does eat cash, right? And you have to be careful about what kind of growth do you want.
Yeah.
And we're going to get back to margins because not all growth, not all revenue, not all margins are created equally.
Right.
So when you're looking at it, and not all terms. So if I want to grow yeah, I'm going to go back to another client story here.
Love it.
But we had a client that's like, oh, we're going to grow, and I'll just say 50%. And I go, damn, that's fantastic. I go, but I had just one question. Who's going to cut a check for $750,000? Or who's going to go to the bank and go borrow $750,000? It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have the capital to grow that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's getting hung up in your inventory, and you're going to have to invest so much more in inventory. It's getting hung up in your AR, and you're going to have to, it's all getting hung up.
Yeah.
Because people tend to think that growth equals cash flow, and it does not. More companies come under stress, and growing improperly, more the same.
Yeah.
More low margin BS.
Yeah.
Right? Than really thinking through their growth.
Yeah.
So in that client, he says, like, why don't we do this? Instead of growing 50%, which I don't think you're going to do anyways, right? I just don't.
Right.
Why don't we do this? Let's raise our prices 10% and grow 25%.
I
Right?
love it.
Do you think you can do that? Because, yeah, I think I can. It's like, good. Because now you don't have to write a check.
Yes. Yes.
Because the higher margins creates the funding to enable the growth.
Yes.
And then we look at what's going on. This is just CFO and stuff. So we're going to look at what's going on with why are we buying? Can we buy less inventory and still satisfy the demand? What are we doing with our terms on our AR, and can we shrink that down?
Right.
Right? Because there's a reason that Michael Dell could grow so wildly. You paid for your computer before he ever spent a dime.
Right.
So it's customer-funded growth.
Yes.
So as you're looking at these new verticals, it's like, can I change my terms here so my customers helping me to fund my growth?
Yes.
Get those deposits. Because those things, now you're not borrowing money from the bad banker.
Yes.
You're basically helping your customers are helping you to fund your business. So when you're not thinking through it, growth could cost you your business. So one last point on that growth. So let's say that you're growing and you haven't thought about where you create resources or your capital structure.
Right.
You know what's inevitably going to happen? You're going to collapse back down to your old self.
Right.
Because you're operating your capital structure can't support it.
No.
Chaos starts happening.
That's right.
It comes right back down.
You churn those clients that you got. You churn the,
Right?
you lose
and
all the
you end up
traction.
with more gray hair like me.
Yeah. That's not why you have gray hair.
Oh, that's a whole different story. We don't want to talk about that either.
Different podcast. I love this. And
that's more of a beer cast on that one.
That's right. One of the things that comes up for me in case the audience is kind of arguing in their head, I can't raise prices. I can't raise prices. No. Ask yourself, what would it take to raise my prices? And just start going through that, because that's one part where marketing oftentimes gets cut out of that conversation. But who is supposed to know what the market values? Who is supposed to know the sentiment of your customers? Who is supposed to have strategies around why do they pay for things? Marketing. And so there's so much really great conversation that in a short amount of time can validate a pricing increase. It can create repositioning, which can potentially be a game changer. Yep. And sometimes you can even find side doors or back doors where you can break off a piece of revenue and be like, oh, we have this small offering that's faster, speed to revenue for you, faster for the customer to value. And just like when you're talking about your diagnostics, we can find those side doors or back doors in, create revenue, create value, and then create a totally new revenue strategy and a different pricing model potentially, especially if you're driving value, speed to value faster.
Absolutely. So when you look at pricing, and I'll send you a matrix that we have.
Okay. And
what the matrix says is, hey, this is my margins up here.
Yeah.
And this is how much I want to raise it. I'm at 30%. I want to raise it 5%.
Yeah.
In the middle, it tells you what percent of my customers could I lose and still be better off. Oh. Really.
And then
it becomes
you're mitigating
easy
fear, because fear makes people predictably irrational, right? And so it's like, no. Like, let's really stress test this. Oh, this is fun.
And that's what we did with that one deal. It's like, if we raise it 10%, what percent of your customers do you think you'll lose? And it says, 5%. It's like, do it.
Let's do it.
You're better off. But here's the other deal.
Better off.
What 5% do you think are going to leave over that price increase?
Ooh.
The jackwagons.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
The people that are already eating your lunch every day, they're going to leave.
Nah.
Right. Hello, competitor.
Exactly.
Meet my old lost customer.
Oh, my God.
But as we're going through this pricing thing.
Yeah.
So 2 other points on pricing. Your luggage.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Do you
baggage?
Ever
Are you about to talk about my baggage?
No, airline luggage.
I'm
Airline
like,
luggage.
hey, that's the beer cast.
Airline luggage. You don't pick your flight based upon the surcharge for your luggage.
Right.
Right? So if you're looking at your service deliveries, are there things that your customer just doesn't care about?
Yeah.
They're buying the couch. They don't care about the delivery fee.
We see that so frequently.
Right? So
yes.
and if you look at what's the profitability of my deliveries,
that we
if
see
you don't
that
know the
so
profitability of your
frequently.
deliveries, you're losing an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say about pricing is you have wildly different services. I know you do. We do.
Yeah.
Most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Are you pricing those relative to the value they create? Or are you pricing everything as though it's the same revenue?
And there's your sales system.
Oh,
and do you have a
my
system
God.
that supports that value,
Right.
quantified value proposition? Oh, yes.
Yeah. So too often your salespeople live in fear of their own margin percent.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, nobody will buy it 25%. How do you know? You've never asked.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a date. If you don't ask her out to the movie, you don't know if the answer is yes or no.
That's right. Exactly.
And if it's no, and it goes somewhere else,
Exactly. You know, you were talking about the value of the offerings and just being clear about that. One place where I see this show up so frequently is, and I know CFOs love SaaS companies because of valuation and recurring revenue, but technology in general, they love the whiz bang. And so they're like, oh, we could build this, we could build this, we can add this on. And then they just chatter at the marketplace about all the cool whiz bang they blew, and grew and put into their product. And the market's like, no, I just want that one little module.
Right.
Like literally, I only use 10% of the thing that you sell. It's all I wanted.
If you don't know what your customers are really excited about, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Especially like if I throw it out to an engineer. Well, they want every whiz bang in the world. It's like, I don't care. Because my customer, I don't need a Bentley if my customers only want a bicycle.
That's right.
If I build more bicycles, they're going to buy the dog out of those things.
Yes.
If I build a Bentley, they're not going to buy it at all.
Yes.
They don't care how cool it is. That doesn't fit their needs.
Exactly.
That's so. Let's do the papers
And these are simply the conversations that need to happen to build a business of intentionality and excellence.
Right.
And this is not rocket science. Like, yeah, it's learning to ask better questions, finding people that can ask you better questions. But, we're not breaking the model here on, oh, God, I don't understand what they said.
Yep.
So.
And for y'all that think we've already gone down 1,000 rabbit holes, just remember the key thing here is you got to back up, right?
Yeah.
You have to grade what you have.
Yeah.
And then you have to grade what you want to have.
Yep.
And I would highly encourage that you do that with the value of your company in mind, right?
Yep.
Because then you're going to be on a different intentional path. And I'm telling you want to see your life get easier, go after valuable revenue, not more.
I mean, who doesn't want that? I love it. So I think we should get into recommendations. But before we do, Samaria, do we have any questions or comments that you're wanting to toss out to us?
Yes. So there's actually one from LinkedIn from Ed Snowden. The question is for Burt. Have you ever been a field salesperson?
No, Ed, you just busted me. But in my construction company, I did have a sales role because I had a responsibility of revenue goal myself. So yes, you busted me, buddy. But I do know what it's like to go out and shake hands and kiss babies. And so making sure that I can do so. And that's in my business right now, I generate 90% of the business development.
Yep.
So in that regard, yeah, I do that sales.
That's why I was about to argue with you. I was like, what? You're the principal of your firm. Of course you're a field sales rep. Like, I know that's like a really lowbrow term for you, but
I just didn't know if Ed was calling BS on my BS
I know.
or giving me a compliment.
No, I know. I was wondering that too. I was about to be like, Ed,
I went first with
tell
the
us
BS line.
What's the question behind the question? I like you, Ed, already. This is hilarious. I
Yes,
love
don't
it.
light me up anymore, Ed.
I know. I love it. All right, Samaria, any others that we needed to address before we dive into recommendations?
Make sure that answer Ed's question. So if it comes back, let us know.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Gotcha. And then is there a percentage of my revenue that should come from existing customers versus net new?
All right, CFO, it's a percentage question. You're first.
I thought I was going to say, all right, CMO, this percentage question, it's all about you.
Okay, so for me,
Yep.
I'm looking at it from a business maturity standpoint. Like, where are they in their life cycle.
Yep.
If a company is newer, then obviously that net new percentage is going to be huge, right? Because they're a brand new company or 5 years in or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if they've pivoted, right? I mean, just depends on what's happening in their maturation and evolving. But it's more for me a trend than a specific percentage. I want to see current customer revenue becoming larger percentage. I want to see client churn really low.
There we go.
I want to be hearing, from the rest of the leadership team, what do we want? Where are opportunities? Where are their strategic initiatives? And so I want to be seeing movement.
Right.
In that. And sometimes it will shift, right? Like if we're trying to kill the profit, like the profit stealers, then, that's going to change where we might be ramping up net new in order to get out of a dying market or something that's really hurting us. So I think for me, it's not a specific percentage necessarily, but more movement. The only caveat to that is that for very aggressively growing companies, they will hit a point where their customer revenue is more important than net new because they are the big player or they're gobbled up so much. And so they have the danger of what they can lose is greater than not growing rapidly in net new. And so I want to see innovation. I want to see them going back to customer insights. I want to see them evolving and not getting stuck. So back to your point about valuation, I want to see a company saying, well, we can hit new markets or we can do build-ons or we're getting so much customer insight that we have a new offering, another revenue tail, another subscription.
There we go. 'Cause you had me a little concerned about this. Hey, they kind of get so big that they flatline out or whatever. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, no, it's just I want to see.
Back on the creative hat.
Yep.
And take those resources and let's go invest in a new business.
Exactly.
Or a new vertical.
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
the case is. But just because we got big and we became GE doesn't mean that we're going to be okay. Well, that's not a good example because I went down. But anyways, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
But here's the other thing that I'll tell you. I agree with you that just by the rule of larger numbers, the percent of new customers will shrink over time. Mm-hmm. Like for me.
Yeah.
So I get X number of new CFOs a year. Right. And that's my growth strategy. Yeah. I don't want to do more than that because I can't digest them. Right. But that means as I grow these new customers, that's a smaller share of my total revenue over time.
Right.
But here's a critical thing. If your percent of new customers remains static, you have a huge problem. It's not marketing. It's execution. Because now you're leaking as much revenue as you're gaining, and you better go fix it.
There you go.
Because you are going to be, the cost of getting new customers is astronomical.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
So if it remains the same, then stop, drop, and roll because you're on fire.
Yep.
And go fix that.
Absolutely. Since I don't have the statistic, I can't validate the source. I'm not going to, but I did read where a 2% reduction in client churn for companies of a certain size is actually equal to a 10% budget reduction across the board.
I'll take that and go do some pencil sharpening on it.
I love it. And it probably is relative to the revenue size and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, wow, just go keep your customers. Don't cut your budgets if you don't have to.
Absolutely.
It's always a point you do. But okay, so let's shift into recommendations. And this will so you guys, if you have more questions, we're going to open it up one more time right at the end. But we do want to make sure that we're giving you guys some actionable things to do. Hopefully we've done that already, but I want to make sure
We've
that
done
we
some
really
scary things. I know that. Some ahas.
Exactly. Okay, so clear specific next action items for people. What do you think? Okay, I just watched this thing. They gave me some provocative ideas. What do they go do with it? What's next?
So I'm going to tell you, as you walk away from this podcast or whatever we're going to call this, I want you to be thinking about 2025.
Yeah.
And people are like, 2025, it's still March of 24. It's like, no. Because if you're going to make your 25 goals happen, that action plan needs to start in July.
Yeah.
Right? So here's the takeaway that I want people to do. I want you to step back and start grading the qualitative nature of your current revenue. Right?
Yep.
So in these risk paradigms that we said about capable alignment versus return, where does it stand? And then start saying, where do I want to be in 2025? And start grading out that revenue and possibly working with somebody like you or whatever that says, what are the really decision metrics that those customers need to have? And what am I doing to prepare that to penetrate those marketplaces? because that's where that liftoff starts cranking up. If I need to lift off come 12/31 2024, then I need to start the countdown now.
Yes.
Because it takes a while to be prepared. I've learned that just from working with you, and y'all done a fabulous job on our stuff, but we need to start early.
That's right.
Right? So the things that we've been working on the last 2 months are going to launch in this month. I'm very excited about them.
That's right. Sowing and reaping.
Right.
Yes.
So back it up. So first, risk assess your revenue.
Yeah.
Is this really where you want to be?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you to risk assess your flatline performance. If your revenue has been plus or minus 10, 15% for several years, you're the problem. Right?
Yep.
Because the marketplace hasn't been that way.
Nope.
So again, step back and then says, risk assess my revenues, but have I risk assessed my attractiveness? Right? Because something's wrong. I'm selling the wrong stuff. I'm positioning the wrong stuff. I'm going to the wrong places.
Yeah.
One of those is wrong.
Like you said, decisions.
Right.
Oh, I love it. So one of the first things I want people to do to add to that is I want them to do the math. And I will put it in the show notes.
Oh, had me at hello.
I know,
It's
but
great.
I do. I like going back to the top. I want them to reverse engineer their growth goal and go, how are we going to get there? And what assumptions am I making? And put it on paper. Because if it's not documented, it's not real.
Publish the timeline, and I'm not talking about a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm talking about on your wall.
Yeah.
To where everybody walking by can see it every day.
Oh, I love that.
The other thing that we talk about in our side of the deals is your metrics need to do what? Create an appropriate level of anxiety for somebody to take action.
Oh man, that's a true CFO statement.
Right?
If I ever heard.
So if I'm going to lay out my steps along the way and the action items that have to take place and the planning and the build, let's put that out there for everybody to see. And just like the United Way thermometer, whatever those things are called,
yes,
we can measure, are we filling it up?
Yeah.
Right? I want everybody to see it. I want everybody to walk by it. And I want everybody either to be celebrating or feeling some level of anxiety. I need to do something different or more to get there.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Okay. I had the weirdest. Any other recommendations before I throw out my weird idea that you might hate?
I can't wait to hear weird. I'll save for that.
Okay. So I'm wondering out loud, I bet we could put these into a checklist.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Okay.
Damn it. Why did I not think of that?
All right. So you guys, you heard it. We're going to spend a week. How long? Yeah. I don't think it's going to take
I got
very
an
long.
open week next week.
Okay. We're going to put together a checklist for you guys that you can access that helps you risk assess your revenue and do the math so that you can really take steps on this because it's time to thrive and to get off of the hamster wheel. So that will be in the show notes. And so, man, I'm super excited about that tool.
Yeah, I'm a little threatened myself, but
I'm a marketer. I'm like, oh my gosh, let's do a call to action. So fun. Okay, final things. Samaria, any final questions we need to address?
None in the chat.
All right.
Good.
I know. It's a wrap
We
for
gotta
the day.
end happy.
You guys, you can find us at newlifecfo.com or themarketingblender.com. Burt Copeland, Dacia Coffey. Hit us up on LinkedIn. Any of our direct message, mail, DMs. Good Lord. There's my old showing. I know Samaria's in the background just dying. Yep,
Right.
she is. She's just dying laughing. She's like, good Lord, woman.
Thank God she has
get
such
it
a great
right.
smile.
I know she does. So, you guys, thank you so much for joining us, Burt. This was
I had a blast.
fun.
It's
I did
just
too.
so much greatness.
I did too. Well, you guys definitely follow New Life. They're amazing. Onward and upward.
Take care.